Hello, welcome to episode 1 of the new Poltergeist Project series, The City of London Poltergeist. If you're new to the podcast, let me introduce myself. I'm Stephen Miller, a historian with decades of experience in the heritage sector, and I love a good ghost story. But what I don't love is bad history. So this podcast is a combination of two of my passions, bringing my research skills to bear on historic poltergeist cases, aiming to uncover forgotten stories and solve the mysteries behind the myths. I'm a paranormal skeptic, but a respectful and an open-minded one. For the Poltergeist Project, I research and release the episodes concurrently. I don't know how the story is going to develop or end. I also don't do any editing or work in post. I record these in one take and I release them, so apologies now for any missteps. I made this decision for Series 1, the Keithley Poltergeist, and it really helped me get the episodes out and focus on what matters to me, the story. So, from the woolen mills of West Yorkshire to the centre of global finance and business, the City of London. I chose this case for a few reasons. I love London history, for its richness and documentation, especially within the city. I actually worked for a period at the London Metropolitan Archives in Clerkenwell within the city. It's now known as the London Archive, so I have some historical experience in the area. The second point I really liked is that the story is a very weird one, and it happens unusually for a poltergeist case in a professional rather than a domestic setting. And then thirdly, there's a mystery. No one knows exactly where the incidents happened. Not yet. So do you think I can find out? We'll see, but not in this episode. For now, I just want to introduce you to the story. I came across it on a website, poltergeistarchive.co.uk, which I'd really recommend. It's very good, but it only gives part of the account with no context or research behind it. I can't find any other references to this story online anywhere. In 1901, the year of our story, London was the biggest and most important city in the world, with a population of around 6.5 million people. Global trade was conducted in pounds, not dollars, and the square mile known as the City of London dominated all others. If you wanted to do major business around the world, you did it from London. The city is a small area in the historic heart of London, where today Bloomberg's European headquarters sit above a Roman temple to the god Mithras. That's why I love London history. Thousands of years of documented history, layers on top of layers. At the start of the 20th century, London was going through massive changes. Queen Victoria died on the 22nd of January 1901, and the Edwardian era began. Whilst the streets were still dominated by horses, carts, and hand-pushed barrows, the city was booming economically, which is reflected in all the new buildings and the infrastructure developments such as the London Underground. London was also a city of stark contrasts, from the old moneyed families and big businesses in the city to the Dickensian slums of East and South London. This is the background in which our story is set, and it all starts with a report written by a man called Lister Drummond. Account of certain phenomena witnessed by me at the offices of the... 27th of January 1901. After luncheon at the Matthews, I was on my way to Vespers at the Oratory when I was accosted by a gentleman who said he wanted to speak to me on an important matter, which will perhaps take too long to explain there. He suggested that he should come and see me. I said that I had a quarter of an hour then, and perhaps he could give me an outline of what he wished to say. He then told me that he'd heard I had some experience in investigating supernatural phenomena, a mistake on his part, and he wanted my assistance in elucidating certain extraordinary occurrences which for the past 18 months had greatly disturbed him in the office of the... where he was employed as a registrar. He had been in the employment of the company for a considerable number of years and had been 15 years a Catholic. He complained that at intervals, which had latterly become more frequent, articles of office furniture, such as the tops of ink bottles, rulers, blotting pads, etc., had been thrown violently around the office, apparently through no human agency. In the daytime, and in his presence and that of the fellow clerks. Chairs had been overthrown, coal and asbestos scattered about, and the fender in the outer office had been dragged out at an angle of 45 degrees. On the previous Friday, a bottle of oil, used for the copying press, with a narrow neck down which a sixpence could not be dropped, was found to contain a French Empire penny. It was seen by all the clerks and placed in a cupboard under the counter and locked up. One of the clerks, who'd been out when the discovery was made, expressing a wish to see the bottle, Steward unlocked the cupboard and took it out. The penny had disappeared. While he was in the room occupied by Stower, the accountant, who was examining the bottle with him, small missiles, pieces of plaster, etc., were thrown at them from the ceiling in the corner of the room. He also stated that on a recent date, an old iron screw was flung at them in the office. And just before leaving, he and two other clerks placed it upon the mantelpiece in the outer office. They then left, locking the office door behind them, and just as they were descending the stone staircase, something was thrown after them. It was the screw. He also complained of the swing door leading from the outer to the inner office being on several occasions violently opened and swung backwards and forwards. He stated that Stower had seen the glass of the secretary's room door softly open and close when he was the only person in the office. I promised to call and see him in the office on the following day. Then follow several days of diary entries documenting the incidents that Drummond was told about and himself witnessed. They did an experiment placing items into a sealed cupboard, but the items would go missing and the cupboard doors would burst open. Drummond witnessed a tin kettle levitate along a corridor. He says, "It could hardly said to be thrown," and he draws a diagram of the movement around a corner. Drummond had an assistant or friend with him, I'm not sure which yet, referred to only as Keane. On one occasion, they visited the office together, and Keane had to use his umbrella to protect himself from the missiles flying around. It sounds fairly amusing. The entries in the report go on until the 8th of February, and then they abruptly stopped. But there is a letter from F. Villiers Steward, the man who had stopped Drummond in the street. This letter was to Drummond. A succession of missiles was then showered on us from the top of the safe. Portions of gas pipes, nuts, screws, and I began to have serious apprehension that the spook was going to slowly tear the safe to pieces. He, however, turned his attention to the other end of the office and Stower's room, and now began a perfect fusillade of missiles. The secretary happened to leave at this time, but at the moment of his going through the passage didn't notice anything. Then in Stowe's room occurred a strange phenomenon. A perfect shower of articles descended from the ceiling. Stones, pieces of quartz, copper coins, old nails. The situation was not without a certain sense of humour. Stower ran to the corner of the room for his umbrella, which he put up, devoutly wishing you and Keane would put in an appearance. My hands were simply full of these missiles, many of which are now at my rooms in Brompton Square. Two friends of Stower's looked in at this moment and witnessed what was going on. In the outer office, things were even worse. I saw a few moments later Stower and Coulson dancing from side to side to escape the heavy letterweights which were being thrown about. Coulson's curved blotting pad was thrown right across the office. A chair near the screen by which he had been standing was thrown bodily across the room, in the direction of the fireplace, with comparatively little noise and no injury. The doors of the safe then slammed violently, and a high stool close by fell over. This thing went on until about 6:20 p.m. Then Stower suddenly shouted, "Great God, look!" I alone got up from my desk and rushed forward to find the doors of the counter cupboard had been flung violently open. And at this moment, from my desk at the other end of the office, where not a soul was standing, there fell upon the floor in front of the fireplace a Pearson's magazine, which had been thrown from the cupboard of my desk only a few days before in a rather mysterious manner. On the present occasion it fell, as I was saying, in the middle of the floor in front of the fireplace. The leaves were then slowly turned over until they at length remained open at a certain page. The book was not open wide, if you can understand, but drawn together at the lower end, as if held by someone's finger and thumb. And in this strange position it remained for several seconds, so that we could all see the picture on the open page. It was a horrible one, representing a spirit trying to hurl a man with a gun over a precipice. It was an illustration from a series of real ghost stories published in the magazine about 2 years ago. The magazines were removed to the office on my leaving my rooms at Uznaber Street about this time, for want of space. As everyone saw this picture, and everyone seemed to recognise the significance of its meaning, even before I did myself. A perfect silence, an intense feeling of relief then followed. Everyone felt it. Stower said, "I am as certain as I am of my existence that the thing is gone and will never trouble us again." We all remained in the office till 9:30, and not a sound disturbed us, nor was there the slightest further manifestation. So there we have it. I said it was a strange old story. A poltergeist displaying a whole host of tricks, from throwing things around and apporting objects to flicking through an old magazine to find a ghostly illustration, which to me seems a little bit on the nose. I need to get my head around all this activity, and I've got plenty of names to research. Lister Drummond, the author of the report, F. Villiers Stewart, who stopped him in the street. They're quite unusual names, so I'm pretty confident I'll be able to pick them up on the census. The other people mentioned, Keane, Stower, Colson, etc., will be more difficult, as I don't even have a first initial for them. Stower, spelled Stoer, looks Germanic to me, so maybe. If I'm lucky, I'll find one of them and their employer, maybe via the newspaper archive. I can then track down where that company's offices were in 1901, and then I've got the location and building to research too. Maybe it's still there. Maybe some of the city boy financiers are still being haunted. Lots of work to be done. Just to say something on the provenance of this story and how I'm able to share it with you now. As I said, I don't think it made the press at the time. It seems like there was an effort to keep it quiet, if anything. This is bad for me as a historian, but I think it adds authenticity to the story. It comes to us from an article written by Herbert Thurston. There's some cracking names in this one. For a Catholic magazine called The Month in 1932, so 31 years after the events. You probably picked up on several Catholic references throughout. I'm not sure the relevance of this yet, but it's definitely something to explore. At the time, Catholics in the UK were still not equal citizens, with restrictions around the formation of religious orders and receiving charitable donations. It wasn't until 1926 the Roman Catholic Relief Act relieved some of these restrictions, but not all. In the next episode, I should have more to tell you about the people involved, and fingers crossed, maybe even where it all happened. In the letter from Villiers Stewart, he quotes Stower as saying, "I'm certain as I am of my existence that the thing is gone and will never trouble us again." Think again, Stower. Herbert Thurston not only printed a transcript of the report and letter, he chased up the story with Keane and got more information. The poltergeist was far from gone. It had actually started talking. A huge thanks as always for listening. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think is going on here. Check out the Poltergeist Project Facebook for updates as well. I've got a few live talks coming up, online and in person, and hopefully a guest appearance on another paranormal podcast, but I'll use the Facebook page to share all those details. For now, goodbye.